Okay, hey, welcome to the inaugural broadcast of the Chad Murphy Show. I'm your host, Chad Murphy. Uh, Notice the cool artwork in the back. A little bit about the show. I'm a full time worker. I don't have a whole lot of time to put into fancy, high speed, low drag editing and, you know, buffer this, buffer that. This is basically just me, two of my closest friends, ranting and raving about topics that actually matter to real people. Uh, I listen to a lot of different programs. I read a lot of different articles, mostly not from the U.S., but a lot of it's fluff. A lot of it is just to get your attention. They speed over topics. Uh, that's not what I want to do here. What I want to do here is talk about stuff that really matters to people. If it affects me, I know it's affecting other people out there. So, again, I'm Chad Murphy. We're joined by producer John. He will be joining us periodically here and there when he has the time because he is also a full time worker and just an average Joe like myself. And then also we have just Jenny, who also works full time and doesn't have time for a lot of BS. So basically, what we do on the show is we pick topics that are currently trending and affecting people, and we sit here and rant and rave about it. You might even hear some stuff that you haven't heard on the mainstream because we actually do digging and find out more information. So, having said that, welcome again to the show, and let's just get right into it. Uh, the first topic that I really wanted to grab a hold of was the housing market. I don't know about you guys, but my rent, we just renewed our lease, and we were looking for a home 2 years ago, and within a matter of months, less than 3 months actually, we were priced out of the market. So we're stuck leasing, and it's just done nothing but go up since then. We just renewed our lease, and our lease now is up over $2,000 a month. That is crazy. And then on top of that, now we have what is actually in real life a recession to most people that the powers that be refuse to address it. It's a recession for whatever reason. I don't know. I have my thoughts, but I don't have my tinfoil hat right now. So um, I don't know about anybody else, but paying $2,000 a month for a 25-year-old house, 1,400 square foot, is just ridiculous.
That you don't own.
That I don't own.
We encountered a similar situation where when we were house hunting, we were getting cash offered outed. Like I would show up to tour and somebody had offered 50, 60, $70,000 over asking in cash. It made the market impossible. And this happened at multiple houses in the same week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what area of the valley either. Oh, for also you're listening, we're in the Phoenix area of Arizona. So I mean it doesn't matter. And the stupid thing was it didn't matter what you were looking for.
No.
A studio a studio shack down in South Phoenix in the militarized zone would still cost you 1,500 a month.
If you
It
could
didn't
find one.
Yeah, if you could find one. And there are sweetheart deals out there to be found, but they're far and few between, and you really got to hunt for them.
And you
And
got to
you got to
recognize it instantly.
Yeah, yeah. And then did you guys run into this where you had to make 3 times the monthly rent?
Oh, we still do. Yeah. Because we're renters
That's still
also.
the case. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
We
still
we
the case.
also rent. So
I lost my crap the last time that was before we got lucky to find the place we're in now. I lost it, and I told the lady, I was like, "Lady, do you realize that if I made $6,000 a month, that I wouldn't be renting from a crap hole from you guys?"
Oh, they don't care.
No,
They
and they don't.
No.
They don't. They don't care. And she just hung up on me.
What's interesting is they still
It-
expect you to save money, retirement this, retirement that, and only spend 30% of your income for shelter. How
With
can you
me,
do
but you
that?
need to make a cajillion dollars a month.
Yeah.
well, I can tell you right now, mine's upwards of 50%.
I think you and us and everybody else out here is pretty much in the same boat.
Yeah,
50% is the average, I think, now.
if it goes up again, honestly, I don't know what I'm going to do. Because we got lucky enough for the first time around, they gave us a 2-year lease, which is kind of unheard of. But this time around,
Especially now.
yeah, this time around they only went with a 1 year. So that just tells me
That's become the norm, is they will only do a 1-year lease. A lot of apartments and houses and things like that in particular used to enjoy doing an extended lease because it made sure that they had a renter.
Yeah.
And now they want that annual price hike. So they will not give you anything longer than 1 year. We've been where we are for years and they still won't give us anything longer than a 1 year.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of scares me because when they went from 2 to 1 automatically like that, just within one contract, it kind of tells me that he's looking at, the homeowner might be looking at being able to sell right away.
Yeah, he's keeping that option open for sure.
Yeah, so I'm like, I am not in any kind of position to move. I'm not. Where am I going to come up with $4,000 a month? I don't make $4,000. I can't prove that I make $4,000 a month.
Sure, you can. You got a printer.
Well, no, it'd be more than that. So that would be a deposit. the 4,000 would be deposit. If the rent was $2,500,
3 times your rent.
Yeah, if you 2,500 times 3, I don't make that. Even combined with my wife's income, we don't make that.
I don't think anybody.
You also need to have a 750 plus credit score. You need to be able to, send your kids to private school and drive an Audi.
So one of the other trends that's happening right now is out here on my end of the valley. We got all these new developments going up. A lot of apartments too, but even the housing developments, they're not building any more houses. And the ones that are going up, they're not selling to individual families. Fulton Homes specifically, they're selling to corporations and investment firms. And these corporation investment firms are buying up blocks of houses to rent.
Yeah, they're the only ones that can afford it.
Exactly. And that's why they're doing it. Fulton saw the writing on the wall when they started these last 2 developments over here. And they're like, we're not even going to actively market to individual families. They specifically went after investment firms and corporations, and they're specifically going to rent them out.
Everybody wanted to blame, Californians for coming and driving up our market here, which is partially true. We had a huge influx, but they also went to a shit ton of other states.
Yeah, we weren't the only one.
It was not just us that they went to, despite the exodus of California. It still has a huge population. It's the investment. It's the investors. They're letting foreign investors and big investment companies come in and buy all of these single family homes, not even in new developments, but like existing single family homes, knowing that they can turn them. And it's screwing the everyman. It's screwing the actual families that want to buy homes for their family to live in. And they made it a point to try to drive that blame elsewhere rather than
it's deflect and divert.
They took advantage of the rivalry between states and was like, it's all them, they did it. But the fact of the matter is, it wasn't. It was investment firms and investors wanting to corner the market, and they sure as hell have. I'm not going to pay $550,000 for a $120,000 house.
No, absolutely not. So there's other 2 things here. First, John, if you want to go down another rabbit hole, look at who the biggest investors buying up these houses are.
So I was looking at statistics, and over the course of the last year alone, not to get off topic entirely, but like the conflicting information that I'm seeing and hearing. So the news is claiming one thing, but when you get in here and you start digging in the weeds, who's buying this, where they're buying it, why, it's starting to paint a different picture.
Yeah.
I was just looking at some information that was posted literally 5 days ago. And they're saying that the median sale to list ratio for June 30th of this year is 0.993, suggesting that homes are being sold at a price very close to their listing prices. But all of these other things are showing, they're 20.9 and 30.1% over the asking price. Now, who's affording that?
Yeah. So the cost of housing has gone up 200%, nearly 200% since 2020. 200%. Now,
We
if you go
pulled out
down,
of looking more than once because we were like, this is untenable. We can't function in this market. Like, there's no way. And we don't do poorly. At the time, before, the world was on fire, we were
doing pretty good.
More than good. And
yeah,
even still, we were like, there's no effing way.
I'm making more now than I have in my entire life. And that's even before you combine that with my wife's income. We're doing, on paper, it looks like we're doing pretty damn good, but where is it? It's all, we just spent $208 for a week's worth of groceries.
Well, when the average home price in the state of Arizona,
$445 or $445,000.
According to bankrate.com here, it's $406,200. The average.
Look up on Reddit. Reddit just released that this week. Earlier, well, it's now Monday, so it would be last week. That the median price has gone up on a house has gone up 200% since 2020.
And this also says 37.4% of homes had to drop their prices to close a deal. Now, this is January of this year. So I understand the market fluctuates up and down, but all of this conflicting information, now's the time to buy, now's the time to sell. Who's actually doing this stuff? Who?
Well, I'm still watching pretty close on Zillow, and if you watch the listing prices when they tried to jump on the boom versus them having to drop it little bits at a time, and then big steep drops, especially new developments where they're like, shit, they tried to jump in and take advantage of the boom and then didn't turn their stuff out fast enough. So as it's tapered off, they're not selling those new homes as fast as they thought they would, and they're left holding the bag. But then when you watch what the last listed selling price is, when you go look at the homes that were sold, it's usually even lower still. And it's because they can't get people to close as much. They have to eat a bunch of cost.
Well, according to this, again, last year, home prices this year are down 6.8%. Who's going to afford a 2-bedroom, 2,000 square foot house or a 3-bedroom for $420,000 that's 15, 20 years old?
Yeah, and now you got to have 30% down on that?
Yeah.
Well, it's making everybody house poor. And that's the thing, is you're starting out upside down. Mm-hmm. And you're going to be house poor for pretty much ever.
Yeah, you're going to be upside down, underwater on that for literally the duration of your mortgage. Was that 40 years?
You'll never pay it off.
Yeah.
And that's what they're banking on, really, if you think about it. Because at any time, you don't physically own that house. You own a mortgage. Mm-hmm. At any time, they could come and just take it from you. They give you a one-time option to buy it out, and if you can't, they just take it from you. Or they sell it off to another market.
They have, right now, they've got everybody over the barrel on interest rates. They're still way higher than they should be. And they know that you can refinance at some point. But in the meantime, they're going to get their money.
Yeah.
And every time they have the opportunity to, they're going to get their money. And it's just going to get harder and harder for people to refinance. It's going to get harder and harder to make things affordable.
Wow. 30-year fixed rate, 7.15.
Yeah.
APR is 7.22.
Just 2 years ago, it was down to 4. It was like 3.5, 4. And then a year before that it was down to like 2.
Yeah, the national average is 7.52% right now. That is crazy.
That's ridiculous. You do that on top of 445,000. That's just your interest rate.
Wow, and if that's for purchasing. If you want to refinance, the 30-year national average is 7.66% currently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where's it going to stop?
And what's fueling all of this? What is causing this crazy boom, this crazy pitfall, whatever you want to call it? I mean, it's up, it's down, it's left, it's right. What is causing this?
Well, just pick where you get your information from, because what I found by trying to go down rabbit holes is everywhere you go is a different answer.
Yeah.
There's one answer. It's fear mongering.
Unsustainable living where you're currently at, be that California, Oregon, Texas, Utah.
Look at how much the cost of living has gone up in multiple states that have always been affordable. If you look across the South, if you look across generous parts of the Midwest that have always been a lower median, they are quickly rising to meet the East and West coasts that have always been substantially higher. It is fear mongering. They are using everything happening around us and globally to scare the crap out of people into rushing to buy homes that they truly cannot afford, just so that they feel that sense of security of having something that's theirs, because that is what is that's what is pushed when you buy a home, that this is your home, this is your home. It's not that the bank owns your home, it's that you own your home. You have a mortgage. That's different than rent. That's better. And while having a mortgage is absolutely better than having rent, because at least you are growing that equity for yourself, at the end of the day, it's also rent. And at the end of the day, until you have paid off that note and that title, that deed is yours.
How do you keep that equity when things keep changing like this?
Therein lies the problem, is you lose all of that when the market flips, because now your house isn't valued at what it was.
Yeah, right. So you just lost all your equity, or a good chunk of it. And what if you've already taken against that, like you took out to do an upgrade or to do a repair?
Oh yeah.
Now you're even bigger in the hole, because
you're even more upside down. You're even more underwater. Look at how many people have first, second, and third mortgages because they were trying to up their value. They were trying to do this. They were trying to do that. There was an unforeseen circumstance that they needed to borrow against. Okay, cool. Except you're never going to catch up to that. And while the cost of living keeps getting higher, the median income doesn't. You're still in the same boat. So you just keep getting more and more house poor. It is an endless cycle of you're fucked.
If you want, conspiracy Chad, even though I don't have my my tinfoil hat ready, I'll make sure I have it for the next show. But my theory is, if you go down the rabbit hole that I went down, and I started from sources outside of the U.S., like Reuters, BBC, and believe it or not, Meet the Press. They're actually in the U.S., but they listed companies that were the ones that were behind buying all the property. So next to the first thing you split it up. So the first thing you do is who's buying all the property, who's buying all the houses. Well, there's two sides to it. The first side is corporations and investment firms. All right, well, now look at who those firms are. More importantly, look who's backing them, because a lot of them aren't using their own money. You ever seen those little infomercials, either on Reels or Shorts? How to invest in how to get rich, or how to be wealthy in investment property investment without using your own money. Oh yeah. Try to follow where that money's coming from. BlackRock is one of the biggest investment firm backers in the world. They own the majority of anything around the world. So, and then the other side of that is foreign investors. And there's a whole shit ton of foreign investors that if you want to keep digging and digging and digging, but if you look at who they are, most of them are Chinese nationals. Now, depending on what your research skills are and who you know and all this other stuff, you may be able to find that a lot of those are linked to the Chinese government, but regardless, there's still Chinese nationals that own a lot of this property. So that's where Conspiracy Chad goes. And it's all just a big scam. You will own nothing and be happy.
Well, at the end of the day, isn't capitalism nothing but just one big scam?
Yeah, but at the same time, capitalism and free market's a lot better than socialism. It's just a matter of how greedy and corrupt are the people that are running the majority of what runs the capitalism. And that's where we've gone off the rails. It's just full out greed and corruption now. There's nothing keeping anybody in check.
A few laws we have.
And even the ones that are there, they don't care. They're going around them.
The laws only apply to certain classes of people. Let's not be funny and pretend like those are universal.
Yeah, well, again, to not go one side or the other on politics, but I call it like I see it, and what I see is they're being protected by the current regime because they're in on it as well. And the other part of conspiracy chat is saying that until you get rid of special interest, it's only going to get worse. Special interest is actually what's controlling policy now because money talks. And these special interest firms and these companies, these corporations, they have big bucks and they're lining the pockets of our people, of our managers.
And have been for decades. Special interest has always controlled things.
But
they
there
just
was
did
always,
it quieter before.
Yeah, but because there was always something there to keep them in check. That's not the case anymore. They just gone full retard with it. They do not care anymore. They used to hide it. They used to be kind of on the down low. Now they tell you what they're doing. They flat out told you what they're doing, except for when it comes to this so far, because I think they don't want to create another bubble. The reason for the last housing market bubble was greed, of course, but it wasn't the corrupt side of greed. It was more just money, money, money. So they were giving out loans to anybody. They knocked down all of their a lot of their restrictions, both on credit and down payment.
So what you're saying is the housing market flux that we're in now is resulting from class warfare.
Pretty much. It's now going to be the haves and have-nots. I've always heard that term growing
always
up.
been the haves and have-nots.
No, but it's full retard implementation of that now, and they are flaunting it in your face now.
That part I agree with, that it's being more flaunted, but the dynamic has never changed. It has always been the have and the have-nots. They just let you believe that you were going to get a little further before you were happy to live in your ignorant bliss of, I'm doing really okay in life, because that's how it felt. Now that all of those things are being pushed to the forefront, the situation hasn't changed. The transparency has. And that is because now, the world demands transparency. They demand that part of it, but they're willing to forgive a crap ton of sins just because you were honest about it. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but see that plays into, and going into that'll actually start us into our next topic of climate change. But the reason they're getting away with it is because our generation, like us, we're all different ages, with me being the oldest, I think, but our generation is the last generation that actually sees what's going on and cares about it. We're just outnumbered. So we're stuck to sit here and bitch about it and try to make other people, like, for instance, this whole program, to bring awareness to it. But the problem is we're preaching to the choir, basically. The next generations below us, with my son being more part of the exception, there's always the exception to the rule. My oldest son, unfortunately, he's like me. He sees the bullshit, but he's even more frustrated about it because he knows already, even at his young man age, that there ain't going to be crap that he can do about it, because most of the people of his generation, they don't care.
So with this class warfare, taking that and bringing awareness to the masses, what is this going to do for somebody that, let's say, doesn't meet the stereotype of white male, and now they can afford a house, or they have the opportunity to buy a house, but they can't because of this housing market? What is this awareness going to do for them? Does it change anything for everybody?
No, unfortunately it doesn't. But what else are you going to do? So, like, I keep hearing, well, you got to get out and vote. You got to get out and vote. Voting is what changes everything. Yeah, how's that going?
Well, we're recounting ballots.
Still,
That's fine.
4 years later, we're still counting ballots.
I went to public school. It'll take a minute. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Florida seems to have a pretty good hold on it. They had theirs done by that night.
Wow. Florida.
Yeah, of all
Bath
places.
salts.
You remember
It was the
remember the
bath
old
salts.
remember the old Adam Carolla show where they had the skit where they would tell you stuff where all this crazy stuff that happened. It was
Oh, yeah.
it was called Germany or Florida. Yeah,
Yep.
of all places, Florida, they got their ballots done in one evening. By 5 o'clock the next morning, they knew who they
Bath
were
salts.
voting for.
They were all on bath salts.
Yeah,
It was
well,
fine. And the
Yeah.
alligators were helping.
yeah. Well, see, that was the thing. The alligators were too scary for the opposing party to strap all of their all the ballots that they found in behind the couch and everything. So they couldn't get out on the street to go deliver them. So that's what we need in Arizona is alligators, and not
Long
just
been a
at
proponent of alligators.
and not just at the Wildlife World Zoo either. I mean, like I want them roaming the streets.
Okay. Okay. So in the last week of
They're
June, the
just
number of
bitey
homes
puppies.
for sale fell below a year ago level, right? That was the first time in 59 weeks. All this other fun stuff here. I'm reading this BS on here. New listings were down 29% from the same week a year ago. Mortgage rates recently crossed back over 7%. Is there anything to do about it? How do we fix this? Or are you
Stop.
just stuck?
Well, for the time being, you're kind of stuck in limbo. Either you can afford it or you can't. By what you were just saying is already a reflection of F you, I can't afford that.
So buying a house versus renting an apartment for, $2,500, that's 1,200 square feet. What's your option? Obviously, inflation doesn't exist, is what they're saying, unless they
Yes.
change that in the news. Inflation doesn't exist. So your cost of living has gone up exponentially, but wages haven't. And now they want you to come back into the office. What do we do here? I don't get it.
So what's going to happen is it's going to take a little bit longer. And eventually the price of houses will start coming down because right now they're still building. I go work on your guys' side of town all the time. I see stuff being built over there, apartment complexes. Although I haven't seen a whole lot of housings going up, but I do see those like bungalow apartments going up like mad over here.
Well, apartments are going up everywhere over here. I think just in our area alone, we've got 6 new apartment complexes.
But what's going to happen is they're eventually going to realize, okay, these people cannot afford it. We have more houses on the market now than people that are buying them. We're going to have to drop the prices to get rid of them. However, there is still a slight chance that they'll just open up more of that to foreign investors. But even the foreign investors are already buying up more than they can deal with now. So
Okay.
there's
I
going to
think there's
be
going to be a
some.
taper.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be a
some
taper because
taper.
they're not renting or turning over those things as quickly as they thought they would. So at what point does it become a money pit for them as well? They had a moment where it was a good turnover for them. So they were able to flip those houses pretty quickly and turn a tidy profit. They can't now. And the economy is such that a lot of people are having to either rent with friends or rent with family. They are not even able to afford to rent on their own because their income does not allow it. They either can't qualify based on the down payment, the deposit or the down payment or what have you. So they're having to combine incomes with other people. So they're not purchasing property or homes because
exactly
they literally cannot.
I have a 20. He's just turned 26 today. I have a 26-year-old son who lives here with me, and he makes just a little bit less annually than I do, and there's no way he can afford a place right now. No, none at all.
Well, Metro Center is going to be the future community of the world here. They're tearing all that mall space down to create these big, huge, sustainable communities now.
Oh, so, you mean the 15-minute city crap?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you won't need a car anymore because everything's going to be right there in your community, and you won't need to ever leave your community. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, they're already doing that they're doing that in China, and now England is doing that as well.
Well, they're doing it in downtown Phoenix also.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. To me, if you want my opinion, uh, tinfoil hat excluded. I think it's all just a means of controlling movement in one way or another.
You don't think that's a goal towards sustainability? And what is that Green Initiative 30 or whatever?
The green initiative stuff is all a scam. The only people that benefit it are the people who sell the stuff and going into it. It's unsustainable anyway. You can't green energy is not sustainable. Not only that, but we don't have the ability to store the mass amounts of energy that we need anyway. Take EVs, for example. In California, they're already telling people to hold back on charging their cars because it's record heat over there. I was just there last week working, and I heard this on the radio ad. Please avoid fully charging your electric vehicles because of the demand on the power grid because of the heat.
So that's just a failure of the state to maintain an infrastructure.
That's countrywide, bro. There's not a grid in the country that could support 100% electric everything.
Oh, of course not.
There's not one grid in the country that could.
People don't like to believe that it's getting hotter everywhere. It is. There's record highs all over the country and have been consistently going up.
Well, that's because of climate change, and that will be addressed on our next episode. So stay tuned for that one. But yeah, climate change is going to be the new normal. So you see how this ties directly into housing. Everything in your house is going to be electric, but you won't need a car anymore because they want to control your movement, and you won't have a car by 2050. You won't need one because everything's going to be right in your little community. You'll have no need to ever leave your community.
Except
they're already doing that. The planned communities are already such a huge thing where they've got grocery stores and all that stuff.
Oh yeah,
right
people are little.
But also they forget about us of the apathetic generation that were very accustomed to the heel toe express. I didn't. Sometimes I couldn't afford the bus. I sure did walk all over.
Well, you're too old to walk now, and it is too hot to walk. So
absolutely not. I will still go.
So yeah, you see how it all ties in. It's all part of the plan. This conspiracy, Chad. I'll make sure I have my tinfoil hat for the next episode.
So how are these planned communities going to work for these huge corporations that demand their employees come back to work when they're not present?
Okay, so prime example, downtown Phoenix. Remember when we were working for the fiber company? Mm-hmm. I won't list them here. Won't name them here. So you remember all of that they tore down along Jefferson and Van Buren, and all those high-rise apartments that were going up?
Yep.
All of the first floor and even some of the second, depending on the design of the building, but all of the first floor was retail. Mm-hmm. And then everything above that was housing. That's how they're doing it. And they're doing the same thing with these 15-minute cities and their community designs where you live and work in the same building.
But Google is not going to open an office at 1301 whatever Jefferson Street.
Well, eventually when the government tells them they have to, they will. Because the more this is accepted, the more it's going to go mainstream and it will be the thing. Right now, it's all sunshine, farts, and rainbows, and these sheep are buying into it. Like, oh, it's so convenient. I don't have to go anywhere. Everything I need is right here. Another example. Have you seen?
But at what cost?
Yeah, exactly. At what cost? Your freedom is the cost. Your ability to move, to relocate is the cost. And let's say you work for XYZ conglomerate and you work in their building and you're renting an apartment in their building. What if they terminate you? Do you get to stay in that building?
Well, history has shown no.
Yeah, exactly. However, when everything is run by the state, they might dictate that, okay, you can't exactly kick them out because there's nowhere else for them to go as long as they're able to pay you the rent. Unless it also becomes part of the norm that, oh, well, XYZ corporation laid off, 40 people from this department. But you got hired by ABC Corporation. Now you have to go move to their building. That might become the norm as well. Who knows? It all depends. I mean, that's stuff to still come down the line. But the idea that it's sunshine, farts, and rainbows, that you're just going to stay right there in your little community. You won't need a car. You won't need to travel.
Yeah, unless you got to move, and good luck with that. You
Oh,
can't charge your electric car, so you're not going to get very
I mean,
far.
if you think about it, like in New York, there's a lot of people that have cars. They're just parked in parking garages, and unless they are traveling outside of their immediate area, they don't use them.
And that's just a waste of money, if you ask me.
And well, it depends on who you are and what you're doing.
First of all, I would never live in New York. Maybe upstate New York, but even then, because of their government, no. But especially in Manhattan or any of the 5 boroughs, if I lived in any of the 5 boroughs, I definitely would not own a vehicle. It is way too expensive to own a vehicle there. You think you get taxed? Like John, you know, our saying over the years is owning a vehicle is nothing but a money pit.
Accurate.
Yeah, but here you need one. Everything is so spread out here. Unless you want to be one of these 15-minute crap, even you don't even have the opportunity for that right now, even if you wanted it, unless you went to Mesa or Chandler, where they actually have a couple of these up and running already. But even then, you still kind of want some mode of transportation other than public transit. Excuse me.
I will say not all of the 5 boroughs are walkable. A lot of them you do need some sort of mode of transportation.
Like the Bronx, maybe you would probably want some mode, like a bike or a scooter or some kind of motorized.
Brooklyn
also.
And then depending on how far out you get.
Exactly. Depending on how far you got to go to commute to wherever it is you're going to work or school, yeah, you can get an Uber or a Lyft about the same price as you can do to public transit. I definitely wouldn't. I would ride a bus in any of those boroughs except for Manhattan. I would ride a bus, but I definitely would not do the subway. No way. Even if they had armed guards on every car of the subway, I would not ride the subway. You're talking about a germ pit. Oh my God. And then there's just the people in general, the whack jobs in general. Never mind if you want to look down this rabbit hole. We're running out of time, but look at the crime rate that has skyrocketed in that city over the last year alone.
What's funny is it's just crime being reported, because the crime rate there has always been shit, and the train's not that bad. The subway's not that bad.
It actually came down quite a bit before the last couple of years.
They were doing better,
but it's skyrocketed again. It is not safe to go anywhere there.
Well, it's like I told my sister when she went to visit many, many years ago, and I was like, crime is a job there. So you need to,
yeah, it is a way of life.
That is those people's occupation. It's like if you go to New Orleans, if you go to LA, if you go to, there's a whole bunch of major metros like that where crime is an occupation.
Yeah, that's their way of life there.
Manhattan proper, though, is just such a tourist trap that obviously people are going to take advantage of that because people show up and they act like morons.
Not anymore. Their tourism is down like bad.
Well,
I'm looking at their crime stats for New York City, and everything is actually down 3%, 24%, 9%, except grand larceny auto. It is 22.8%.
Yeah.
Irony.
Which is funny because in Manhattan, when you live in Manhattan proper, most of the time you don't use private transport. You use public transportation because it is a walkable city. And you've got planes, trains, automobiles, buses. You've got all of that. And the subway takes you pretty much everywhere you need to go.
I won't ride the subway there.
I didn't
I've been there. I've been there for work. I've been there traveling, like going through. Mm-hmm. But when I've been there for work, it's been for like a week at a time. So I'm not saying I'm an expert on the place. I've only been there a few times for work. But it does, when you're there day in, day out, even if it's just for a week, no. And I was working right in Manhattan. I was working off of Broadway and 24th.
Oh, yeah, you were right there. I think it depends on the person. I think it depends on your general temperament. It is not, Manhattan's not for the faint of heart as far as that goes. Most of the people who live there are urbanites, and they've been there their entire life.
But they're all
they're
clean.
gonna.
Hey, that might be the reason that the crime rate is actually going down statistically, is because there's so many people that are leaving.
Mm.
There's not as many people to report the crime anymore. Just a
Well,
thought.
everybody's Nona has corked off, so
All right,
So,
so
last 5 minutes here. What are your closing thoughts on the housing situation?
I really have no closing thoughts on it because I'm just living at it one day at a time, dude. It's like, where's it going to go from here? I can look at information from all of these different sources, and it still doesn't give me an answer of why and where, or why and when.
So, how do you cope with it?
Nicotine and caffeine.
Okay.
I would say, the adult beverage here and there, but you guys know I don't drink much, so.
If you can afford it.
we are not
Yeah,
here promoting alcoholism. But if you need a stiff drink at the end of the day, do you?
And that's the other thing. I really do. It's not in the budget to go buy a 12-pack of beer right now.
Or cigarettes.
I go without other things before I go without my cigarettes right now.
Same.
Like I will literally cut back on a little bit of food for myself before I go without my smokes.
One of those 7,000 chemicals in there, whatever. How many chemicals do we have in cigarettes now? It keeps changing.
A lot.
Yeah.
There's like 32 or something like that.
Some of those chemicals you can put together and make a food group somewhere. Right?
Actually, on a sidebar, and I don't want to get on another topic, but I think that's why I did pretty well during COVID, is because my lungs are always full with tobacco. So there's no way a virus is going to live in that.
My lungs are already
filter.
shit, so
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah. The Murphy filter.
COVID entered my lungs and said, "All right, we out."
I can't afford this house either.
Yeah, right. There was a few of them that stuck it out, like Florida, like Floridians and their hurricanes. But there was a few of them that stuck it out, but they didn't last long.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So that's going to draw a close to our inaugural episode here. I want to thank you guys for showing up and being here.
Thanks for having me.
You guys, producer John, Jenny J, just Jenny. Anytime you guys want to jump in, go right ahead. So our next episode's topic is going to be climate change. And I want to do it that way because it ties right into the housing market. And we'll show you how on the next episode. So stay tuned.